welcome to my little corner. In this video, I'm gonna talk about all the books I read in 2022. At first I was gonna make maybe like a best books of 2022, but then I thought this would be a lot more fun if I did a tier ranking of all of them and just like briefly talked about all the books. I had a goal to read 15 books on Goodreads and I made it to 27. This is unheard of. This is amazing. So here is the tier ranking. So we have Perfection, Loved It, Great, or It Hit the Spot. We have I Don't Know What's Going On and I Don't Care, and Put Me Out of My Misery. So two things I want to let you know is I don't really give books 1 stars. I don't know, like even if I hate it, there's always gonna be like one aspect of it, or even if it's just like the ending that's good, and I will still give it like at least 2 stars. Also, I don't really DNF books. I don't know why. Even if I'm hating the book, even if I'm bored and I want it to end, I feel like I need closure and I want to finish the book. Okay, so let's get started. 27 books. I also put them in order of when I read them. So the first book I read in 2022 was These Violent Delights. Now, I was seeing this book everywhere. This was on, by the way, I don't do TikTok, but I'm all over Instagram Reels, which is kind of the same thing. But yeah, all the videos, this book was everywhere being recommended. It wasn't a good time. It was not for me. This book was like 19 something. What was it? This book was 1926 China. There's some rivalry going on with some gangs in China, and I honestly can't really tell you. I don't know. I didn't care. I could care less about all of the politics. It was too many politics with gangs and stuff. A lot of information, a lot of world building, a lot of history about the gangs, which I really do not care. The only interesting thing about it was the whole monster thing. There's a monster, it's, you know, a lot of suspense. There's people that are like cutting each other's throats and stuff. Yeah, that was the only interesting part. But honestly, there was so much gang politics that yeah, this is gonna go to Put Me Out of My Misery. Yeah, not a good time, but I finished it. Not gonna continue obviously with the series. Okay, next up we have Serpent and Dove. I actually like this one. It was pretty interesting. There's witches, there's witch hunters, which are part of the church, and the main girl, she's kind of like a rule breaker. She's a witch, and then she gets entangled with a witch hunter, and the witch hunter is like very traditional. These are the rules, you know, this is how it's been done, so this is how we're gonna do it. It is obviously an enemies to lovers story. I can't really tell you how, I don't remember, but they end up getting married. I know that the main girl like helps him like open his horizons, you know, like this is not how it has to be. Like witches are not the unnatural monsters that you think we are. And then the main girl has a lot of backstory and she's like running away. Look, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the world building and the whole chemistry that they had. It was pretty cute. So this is gonna go with Great. It hit the spot. It's good. And then next up we have the sequel. So this is a 3-part series, okay? Next up we have Blood and Honey. That's the second book. And that's where everything fell apart, to be honest. I haven't read the 3rd book just because the 2nd book was not good. I don't even know why this book exists, to be honest. Nothing happened. I couldn't even tell you the plot because literally nothing happened in this book. It was such a waste of trees, a waste of everybody's time, to be honest. But yeah, I'm gonna put this into I don't know what's going on and I don't care. Yeah, it was pretty pointless. Have you read this series? Does it get better on the third book? Should I bought the third book. I have it. I guess I'll read it eventually, but do let me know if it gets better. Okay. Next up we have Crescent City. The story was amazing. There's angels and demons, the fantasy is great, and then there's a murder and they're investigating the murder, and then there's like more clues to a bigger thing that's going on. Look, I loved it. I don't know if I would put it into perfection. Like, I loved it so much. I just don't know if it's perfect. Okay. I think I'm gonna put it on loved it for now. Okay, now we have House of Sky and Breath, which is the second book of Crescent City. Not as good. Let's face it, not as good. I feel like the book was all over the place. I don't even remember what they were doing, to be honest. All I remember from the second book is the ending. That ending, I swear, it took me, I was like, for 20 minutes, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so mind blown with the ending. Just because, I mean, I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but I love ACOTAR so much. And when I say ACOTAR, I mean like the whole series, not particularly the first book, but I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like, I can't believe that there's no news of the third book yet. So yeah, I'm not gonna put it on loved it. I mean, the ending of the book was perfection, but you know, it's a lot of pages to take into consideration. So I'm gonna put it in great. It hit the spot, you know, it hit the spot. Next up we have Sorcery of Thorns. This was a really cute book. It's a standalone book. Well, actually, there's a novella spin-off that's coming out in like 2 days. I already pre-ordered it. I'm very excited to read it. But Sorcery of Thorns is really cute. It's a fantasy book, but it's a standalone, which is fresh, you know, because every time you want to read fantasy, it's always like endless series of books, right? So this is a book with sorcery. There's libraries. It's about books. I mean, it's a book about books. What else could you ask for? Your main girl works in a library. Her job is to, you know, clean the books, protect the books. There's these grimoires. Am I saying that right? These magical books, and they can actually turn into monsters. So it's pretty dangerous. And then she's working at the library, and then one day someone's trying to steal some dangerous book. She intervenes, as they always do, and then she has to run away, right? She's running away. She meets this guy Nathaniel, and then he has the servant who's a demon, and he's also really cute as well. And then she starts to find out what's actually happening with all of the libraries in the place, and there's someone who's, you know, stealing dangerous books for evil plans. But yeah, it's good, it's great. I totally recommend it. And I think I'm gonna put it on loved it. Yeah. Now, Night Circus. I made a video about Night Circus. So if you watched it, you already know. If you didn't, it's okay. You can watch it or don't. I hated this book. The book is just vibes, okay? So if you want a story where the plot is just vibes, you know, there's actually like no plot. We're just describing things. We're just describing the feel of things, and everything is black and white. The black and white stripes over and over again. There's also a lot of time jumping. There's a lot of characters. Most of them don't matter to the plot. You know, I can't tell you enough how much I did not like that book. Like, this is definitely another one for put me out of my misery. Next up, we have The Love Hypothesis. Once again, I made another video talking and reviewing all of Ali Hazelwood's books. So if you want to watch that as well, will be linked down below. But The Love Hypothesis, I don't know if you haven't heard about this book, I don't know how you escaped. I loved it. I loved it. It's just your typical cheesy rom-com, so predictable. You know everything that's gonna happen, enemies to lovers. You know, there's not much else to say. It's like, as soon as it starts, you know where it's gonna go, you know how it's ending, and you love it anyway. Just, you know, if you're into rom-coms, you know what I'm talking about, and that's exactly what this book is, and it's perfectly that. You know, it's a perfect rom-com. It's not perfection. I'm gonna put it on loved it. Okay, next up we have An Enchantment of Ravens. This is by the same author as Sorcery of Thorns, and once again this is a standalone fantasy book, which I really like. Also, this book is like under 300 pages, which is really, really short. And it amazes me that she was able to build like a fantasy world in so little pages. This one is very interesting. There's fae and then there's humans, but in this world the fae cannot create things. So all the things that humans create, like cooking, painting, a lot of the art stuff, the fae cannot make things. They can only consume it. So usually they'll go to the humans, you know, humans have to cook, or the main girl in the story, she's a painter. So she's painting fae people, and then she paints the prince, I think he was, or the king. No, the prince. But she put like an emotion on his face, and now that emotion put the prince's position in jeopardy. And now he wants to bring her to trial to, I don't know, fight off whatever's going on. So this book is actually a journey book. It's actually their journey of, you know, going to trial, because they have to go to a certain court and it's like really far away. But then something happens and they decide they don't need to go to trial anymore. And then she starts learning a lot more about the fae, like everything she knew was a lie, and she starts actually knowing the truth about the fae. It's pretty good. It's less than 300 pages, so if you like fantasy books, you got nothing to lose to read this one. It's really good. I'm not sure if it's on Loved It, but it's like, it is great. It hit the spot. I would say like, I really, really like it. Okay, next up we have The Spanish Love Deception. I enjoyed the book. It was nice. You know, we have another rom-com. The main girl needs a date for her sister's wedding in Spain. And then you have the main guy, which is like, oh, he hates me, but you know, he obviously doesn't hate her, but she can't see it, and he ends up being her guest to the wedding, and things happen. You already know where this is going. So this one, I mean, it was really good. I think I'm gonna put it on great. I'm gonna put it on great for now. Okay, next up we have Six of Crows. Once again, I'm not sure if I talked about this in a video before. I don't remember. Not a good time. I had such high hopes for this book, you have no idea. Like, this book is everywhere. It was adapted. Netflix made a show about it. I couldn't see it. Once again, this is like another Night Circus for me all over again. People love it, and I don't know, am I the problem? I just did not like it. It was so boring. Like, I didn't know that a fantasy book could be so boring. Especially the first book. Usually the first book is good, and then it goes downhill from there. But this one was just bad from the start. So the main plot is that there's gonna be a heist. It's a heist book, right? There's a whole team that gets put together, and then ultimately they're gonna do a heist. But the problem is, even, you know, before we get to the heist, we get a lot of background stories about the stories of each individual character, and I didn't care for it. I didn't care about their background story. I couldn't get attached to any of the characters. I just couldn't connect. I couldn't connect. I didn't care about what they were doing, what they were talking about. So at the end, even at the heist, I was just so detached from the book already to even enjoy the heist part. This is kind of hard for me because it's a mix of put me out of my misery and I don't know what's going on and I don't care, really. So I wish I could put it on both, to be honest with you. I'm gonna put it on put me out of my misery. I don't know, like, okay, it's not as bad as these Violent Delights and the Night Circus. It's certainly better. I really don't know what to do with this one. I really don't know. Maybe I'll put it in I don't know what's going on and I don't care. Then we have Dumbledore, The Life and Lies of Hogwarts Headmaster, something like that. This is an unofficial book, and you know, there's actually like a lot of like Harry Potter unofficial books and guides and stuff. This was another one. I really like the cover. It looks really good on a shelf. It's commentary. I don't really know who this person is. He wrote commentary of Dumbledore's life and possible lies and things that he's hiding. There's a chapter for every Harry Potter book, and he like really analyzes like everything, like every move that Dumbledore does and how calculated he is. Like he's always like chess, a few steps ahead of you, and everything he does or says has a purpose, like a hidden purpose. And I thought it was actually interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting analysis of Dumbledore, and I'm gonna put it on great. It hit the spot. I mean, it's nice. Next up we have Throne of Glass. You know, I loved ACOTAR, loved Crescent City, and then I'm like, I have to read Throne of Glass, you know. It's also a series that everyone seems to love, so I wanted to give it a try. And I really loved the first book. Throne of Glass was really good. Once again, I like when the book has like a clear plot line and, you know, where we are, what needs to happen, where we need to go, you know. And that book is exactly that. We have our main girl, she's an assassin, and then she gets into this competition to become the king's champion, which is kind of, I mean, what is the king's champion? It's kind of like the king's personal assassin, you know, the one who does the dirty work for the king. And then there's also more mystery outside of the competition, because there's a monster and all of a sudden there's like people showing up dead, like gruesome deaths by some monster that people don't know who it is. I'm gonna put it on loved it. Think it was great, lots of potential. And then we have Crown of Midnight, which is the second book of the series, of the Throne of Glass series. And I'm not sure if I can tell you anything about the book without spoiling the first book, but you know, the story continues, the plot thickens, there's character development, the world keeps building, more characters. It's very complicated. I'm gonna say that, you know, out of all the other series, ACOTAR, Crescent City, even though they're all very complex worlds, maybe Throne of Glass is the more complex for me. Like, I already read a few books and I'm still confused. But I just think that this was a good second book. You know, a lot of things happen, but it's also slow. But this one, I don't think it was as good as the first one. I mean, I still really loved it, but I'm gonna put it on great. And I know that I also have Heir of Fire here, so I'm gonna skip the other books for now. Heir of Fire, third book of the series. Things are starting to go downhill. Okay, the first two books were great. The third book, things are slipping. The third book is giving me Blood and Honey vibes, you know. It's a book where I'm just like, what is this? There's nothing happening. You're just wasting pages. This should have been like a few chapters. Why are we still talking about this? Like, can we move on with the story, please? So that's how it felt like. And then the main characters, the love interests, everything is all over the place. You know, the love interests are not love interests anymore. There's different guys. They have someone else. I don't care about that. Look, it's going downhill. This is gonna go in. I don't know what's going on and I don't care. And I'm actually now currently reading the 4th book, what is it called? Queen of Shadows. I don't even remember. I'm reading Queen of Shadows. It's going on almost a month that I'm reading this book and I'm only halfway. That should tell you that I am suffering through the book. You know, it's hard to read the book. Like, I want to finish it, but the story is, the more I read, the less I care. That's where it's going. Okay, now we have the Final Gambit, and this is the 3rd and final book of the Inheritance games. She's actually, the author is writing another book about the brothers, the Hawthorne brothers, and I don't know if that's like a novella, if it's a prequel, spin-off. I don't know, because I thought that the Final Gambit was the 3rd and final book in the series, so I don't really know what's going on. But I actually made a video talking about the Inheritance games, the 1st book. I've talked about it so many times on this channel, on different videos, and I loved it. I love the Inheritance games. I recommend it to anyone who likes, you know, puzzles, riddles, you know, who done it, who did it type of stories. You know, I love those types of movies. Love that story. It kind of has like Knives Out vibes. The 2nd book was not as great, you know, kind of like a filler book as usual. But the 3rd book came back full force with the puzzles and the riddles, and I think it was great. It gave me back the feeling of the 1st book, which was kind of lacking in the 2nd. So this is gonna go on Loved It. Okay, now we have the Ballad of Never After. You know, Caraval was perfection to me, and the whole series. And then Once Upon a Broken Heart, which kind of is the story after Caraval. And once again, that is perfection. Chef's kiss. Stephanie Garber, she knows what she's doing. The stories are just so whimsical and magical, and I can't tell you how much I love anything that she writes. I also made a video talking about this book, so if you want a full-on review, I'll put the link down below. But this is magical. This is the 2nd book of Once Upon a Broken Heart. We have more mysteries and secrets revealed and shocking reveals and twists. It's amazing. I think I made the perfection tier just for this book. I think this is the only book, or I don't know. Let me not get too ahead of myself. But I made this tier for this book. Okay, now we have Love on the Brain, and once again I made a video with all of Allie's books. This is it's the Love Hypothesis 2.0. It is, you know, once again, enemies to lovers, you know, workplace, romance, and they're scientists. But, you know, I really liked it. Another great rom-com. So once again, that's gonna go on Loved It. Okay, now we're gonna go on Allie's novellas. We got 3 novellas, Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero. I made a video about this. All of our books have the same plot formula. These are novellas, so these are like less than 100 page books, which helped me just put more books onto my final list of 2022. But, you know, I don't know. These are also called the STEMinist novellas. So first we have Under One Roof. All these are enemies to lovers. Why they're enemies, no clue. It's always something really stupid, a misunderstanding. So Under One Roof, they are forced, or are they forced? I don't even know. They just end up living in the same house because they each own half of the house. So they hate each other and then they don't. You know, so you know the deal. I'm gonna put this one in great, and it hit the spot. I mean, I know it feels like I'm complaining about it, but I still like, you know, cheesy, predictable rom-coms, and this one was okay. You know, this was still okay. Then we have Stuck With You, and they get stuck in an elevator, and they have a past, and now they're forced to talk about it because they're, you know, face to face and they have the time. So the story keeps going back and forth with the past and the present. I'm very conflicted about this one because the story itself, I really enjoyed it, and I want to put it in also great. It hit the spot, but there's something inevitable that made me so incredibly infuriated, I think is the word, is the endless descriptions of big men that Ali writes. In all of the books, the men are so big and the women are tiny, but in this book, it was the pinnacle of this. It was like the climax of this man is so big. I don't know how much to tell you how big it is, you know, and she wouldn't shut up about it. I mean, this is a 100-page book, and half of it is descriptions of this mountain of a man. I'm actually gonna put me out of my misery, just to illustrate how pissed off and annoyed I was at that. I couldn't take it anymore. Some people might think it's funny and laugh about it, but I was like, I can't take this anymore. Just for this video, I'm gonna put it in a corner and be like, you should think about what you did. Okay, think about your actions. Then we have Below Zero. The story for this one is a little bit more complex. I mean, as complex as it gets, I guess. They're scientists, and she wants to do research. They work for NASA, and she's doing research in the Arctic. And he's like, no, that's too dangerous. And then she ends up going, and then he has to rescue her. The descriptions of big men were kept to a minimum, you know. So I'm actually gonna put this in great. It hit the spot. Yeah. Next we have The American Roommate Experiment, and I don't know if this is a sequel or a standalone. I guess it could be read as a standalone, but I think it could also be a sequel to The Spanish Love Deception, just because the characters from The Spanish Love Deception also appear on this one. So this might actually be a sequel, but with different characters. And then the two main characters from the first book are kind of in the background. I actually really love this one better than The Spanish Love Deception, just because I love the characters so much more. The main guy in this, Lucas, he was such a soft cookie. Like, I love him to pieces, okay? He's just one of those characters you just fall in love with since the beginning. I just have a soft spot for him. I really like him. This one, the main girl, there's something wrong with her apartment, so she moves to the apartment of the main girl from the first book, and then the cousin of said girl from the first book shows up, and he was supposed to stay in that apartment. So now they end up being roommates, they share the apartment, and they have a lot of chemistry, and I don't know, it's not an enemies to lovers. They are so sweet and cute to each other since the beginning, and I really loved it. I really loved it because at this point, after reading so much of Ali's books, I can't take another enemies to lovers. So that was very refreshing, and it was such a cute story. I love them together. This is gonna go on loved it. Okay, now we have These Hollow Vows. I did not expect to love this book so much. I ate this book up. I loved it. There were Cinderella vibes. So she is human, and then there's Fae people, and then her sister gets sold to the Fae to pay some debt, and then she has to go to the Fae lands and try to get her sister back, and now she has to you know, work for the king, the evil king, to get her sister back. He wants her to do stuff for him. He wants her to bring him some items, and then she has to, you know, infiltrate different courts to get those items. There's a lot of betrayal, the love, the romance. There's like two guys, and they reminded me so much of Akatar and Tamlin and Rysand. I was just like, oh my god, don't be another Tamlin, please. There's a lot of betrayal in this book. A lot of betrayal, shocking twists. I actually want to put this book in perfection. I mean, it's perfection, but not as perfect as The Ballad of Never After. But you know what? That book is so lonely up there, I'm gonna put this one over there too. Okay, now we have Vespertine. So this is from the same author as An Enchantment of Ravens and Sorcery of Thorns. So that's why I was like, I really like the other ones. This one is gonna be great. You can't assume. I have learned that you cannot assume that just because you like some authors' books, you're gonna love all of their books. You know? Doesn't happen like that. I did not like this one. Not a good time. No. I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into the whole thing. Also, I thought this was another standalone because all of our other books were standalone. Turns out this is the first of a series of books. Don't care. I'm not gonna continue. This is like about nuns, and there's evil spirits, like they're relics, and the nuns are protecting the relics, but then the main girl, she gets possessed by a spirit. She gets possessed, but she's like sharing her body and her mind with the spirit. It's not like the spirit takes over. So there's a lot of chatting in her head. Like the spirit, the demon spirit talks to her in her head, and now she's on the run trying to hide, and she has a spirit in her. I don't know if it was like the whole nun thing. I don't know. I couldn't get into it. I mean, I thought that the interactions like in her head with the spirit talking to her, communicating, I thought those were alright, but the story overall, I don't know what's going on, and I don't care. That's what's up. I don't care about this story. I'm not gonna continue. Okay, now we have Legendborn. I think this was a big book, and most people love it. I love it. I love the book. I just think it's very complex. It's very complicated. The whole, you know, the politics of it, I'm not sure if even a world building. It's just really the politics, the ranking system. It's so complicated. I was not really following. Yeah, there's a lot of elements to the book. You have, you know, a black girl that moves to a new place where it's mostly white. There's a lot of systemic racism. She lost her mom. There's grief, but even though she lost her mom, she's not over it, and she thinks that there's more to it. Her mom supposedly died in a car accident, but she thinks that there's more to it than just a car accident, and she's trying to find out what actually happened. And after she moves to this place, I don't know if she's in high school taking college classes, or if she's like in like early college classes. It's a little fuzzy. I don't really remember. But then she sees demons, you know, and then there's these people killing and fighting the demons, right? And then she gets involved in this like secret society, where I guess they kill the demons. She gets involved in that, and it's just really complex. I don't really know how to explain this book, to be honest. There's so much. I don't know if it's like a King Arthur retelling, or if it's just a book that is involved in King Arthur, because King Arthur is like in this story. But you know, it was a very intriguing story. It's very complex, and you know, I'm gonna read the second book. I already have it, and I'm gonna read it eventually. This one is gonna go unloved it for sure. Okay, now we have Be a Triangle by Lily Singh. You might know her. She is Superwoman on YouTube. She's very popular. I really loved her first book, How to Be a Boss. You know, I think that the first book had a lot of takeaways. It was very informative and I really loved it. But this second book, Be a Triangle, it almost feels like a filler book. It's also like 100-something pages, so it was very quick to read. I was hoping to be inspired and motivated and, you know, give me some life lessons or something like How to Be a Boss. But this one was so like superficial and not helpful at all. I was very underwhelmed with this book. I feel like in this book she's just trying to be inspirational, but she's not. It was not. If you're looking for like a self-help type of book or motivational book, this ain't it. This book is different because it's not fantasy or fiction. It's just like a motivation book, self-help, whatever. And I'm not saying that it's just awful. I mean, probably you're gonna get some stuff from it. But it's not great. It did not hit the spot. So I'm just gonna put it in the middle there. It's not that I don't know what's going on and I don't care. Maybe I should have done one extra category just for this book, because I feel like it doesn't fit anywhere. Okay, we are finally down to the last book. The last book of the year was These Twisted Bonds. This is the second book from These Hollow Vows. This is a duology, so that is the end of that. Well, we think it's a duology, right? Not perfection. So the first book was perfection to me. I really loved it. But the second book, I don't know. I don't think authors are able to keep the same level throughout all the books. Eventually the quality is gonna go down. Most of the book, the first part of it, is just so aimless. The book doesn't have a purpose. I feel like the writer was just writing for the sake of it. Like there's no plot. Like we're reading and we don't know where we want to go. Like what are we trying to do? Like what is the point? Like you already did all this in the first book, right? But now what? Now what happens? Because you're not doing anything. Now you're hanging out with this new guy and you're just talking, wandering, walking around. What are you doing? Do something, you know? Where's the guys from the first book? I want to know what they're doing or what's happening with them. Can we like visit them? You have to wait like what, 100 pages? Like a really long time until we finally get to see what they're doing. And then finally we get like a mission of what needs to be done, and you know, the rest of the book is just them trying to figure out, how do we do this? How do we save the kingdoms? And then it was really funny because this was like the problem even in the first book and now the second book. And then the problem was fixed really quickly in like 2 pages. Done. And I think I'm gonna put this one in great. I mean, it still hit the spot. It's just very underwhelming compared to the first one. So we have made it. I have ranked all 27 books. I don't know if any of this is shocking at all. Like, I actually like most of the books that I read. So as you can see, my favorite book of the year was The Ballad of Never After, and second place goes to These Hollow Vows. Worst books of the year, These Violent Delights and The Night Circus. Those are the bottom ones, like, not good. So what did you think of this list? Like, do you agree with me or you like wildly disagree with me? Let me know in the comments, and also let me know what was your favorite book of 2022. Is it on this list? And if not, let me know, because I would love to add it to my TBR. So this is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.